All right, leaping into the Dragonknight class refresh. ESO's combat team has returned to provide an update on the ongoing class refresh work. Specifically, they're taking you through the Dragonknight changes you can expect to find in Update 49, going live for all platforms on March 9th. All right, this is a long read, so buckle up, everybody. Hi, everybody. As we mentioned in our class refresh announcement, in an effort to modernize ESO's classes, address overall combat balance, and improve look and feel, and alleviate the subclass concerns, changes are coming to the class system. First class we're looking at is the Dragonknight. As developers, we look at the design from the perspective of problem spaces which identify issues that need to be solved. We can identify these spaces through metrics, player feedback, surveys, our own playthroughs, etc. Through this process, we come up with solutions to any identified problem spaces in the form of designs, which lead to what you get in the game. Dragonknight-sized problems. Based on your feedback, surveys, and in-game metrics, we have identified the following problem spaces to address within the Dragonknight class. Currently portrayed as powerful attrition warriors, but they lack the distinct ability functionality that helps bring this experience to life. The damage over time effects from them are built the same as any other class, making gameplay across classes feel somewhat homogenized. This is a global issue, especially hurts Dragoknights. Well. It's funny that they recognize this is a global issue that they themselves caused in Update 35. Well. It's almost like making all the dots the same time wasn't the right plan. Okay, but it's good. I'm glad they're acknowledging that, because it took them quite a long time to. Excuse me. Playing as Dragonknight can often feel swingy in combat moments with their ultimates and passives, which allow them to come back from the brink. While this is a satisfying experience in some cases, such as Battle Roar, we want this to be a more central part of the Dragoknight's rhythm in combat, where it builds up to deliver eruptive, punctuated experiences like a volcano would. Skill lines are mostly focused on specific roles, while core functions are also split up. This makes Dragonknight suffer while subclassing compared to a class like the Arcanist or Necromancer. It makes their lines less desirable to subclass into. For example, Burning Talons is locked behind an otherwise damage-weak skill line, making it a less optimal option to take, despite being an iconic form of damage over time to the class. Dragoknights are significantly less effective and differentiated in the support role, lacking core tools in their kit as well as distinct gameplay experience for the role. One of the major goals for the class refresh is making sure each class skill line offers something big and impactful for each role. This is really nice. All right, Dragonknight solutions. To tackle the issues we mentioned above, we're looking to make the following high-level adjustments. Drive home the sensation of attrition by introducing ramping effects such as the Avalanche passive or the new Engulfing Dragonfire effect. Get stronger as you persist in active combat. To capture the feeling of building and erupting power, combat should reinforce rotations and a cycle with more clearly represented highs and lows. Dragoknights will also have more nuanced effects that drive their identity. They'll offer unique abilities or twists that other classes lack to make them stand out contextually, such as unique damage over time functionalities with their own durations and damage values. This is all good. Improve the dispersion of role functionality among the Dragonknight skill lines. Each skill line should offer something meaningful for your role, while simultaneously making you pause to trade one of those skill lines for another in the context of subclassing. Yeah, not just like, okay, we're Draconic Power's out of here for sure. Earthen Heart is out of here for sure. Yeah, because that's kind of how it is now for damage, at least. For tanking, Earthen Heart's good, but Draconic Power is like one of the worst skill lines to use for subclassing. So, yeah, I'm talking PvE, anyways. So yeah, this definitely needs to be adjusted. Introduce more abilities and passives that aid in carving a niche in the support role with effects like Protect the Brood, previously Dragonfire scale, which gives range damage reduction to nearby group members. Yeah, stuff like that is good to add in, 100%. These high-level principles inform the more granular adjustments you'll see below from skill line to skill line and ability to ability. Coming adjustments, skill line shuffle. In light of subclassing, we decided to look at skill line ability and passive distribution more closely than we have before. There are currently two distinct models of building skill lines for classes. A role-centric model, Necromancer, Arcanist, and most of Warden. One that focuses on theme or identity, the original 4 classes, with some exceptions such as Nightblade's Assassination. Prior to subclassing, there was a strong internal sentiment that the newer class model of role-specific skill lines was a more successful system for newer players, building more digestible experiences and building more modular buckets that could be more easily compared and balanced to one another. With subclassing, however, this model introduced a slew of challenges and imbalances where now the ideal way to play would involve picking a role-specific line from every class. Yeah, exactly. 100%. This created a sense that it was largely ineffective to stay true to your class, and that the power difference between those who do and do not was larger than any other build permutations before. Absolutely. Spot on, and props to them for like fully recognizing it and stating like exactly what's going on. So good job, Zoss. This also hurt and exasperated an already existing problem space of class identity, feeling like it took a back seat to gameplay. Yes. As such, we'll be adjusting skill lines to follow a more theme and identity focused model as we work on each class, where we blend a healthy mix of tools and effects for every role in each. This is exactly where this needs to go. It's our hope that every skill line will offer something you can use regardless of your role, while simultaneously spreading out the power that makes a class come to life and drive home the sensation that staying true to your class is also a much more viable and distinct option. So far, so good. All right, Fire and Fury in a class. Here's an outline of what each of the skill lines will look like for the Dragonknight. A crossed out name means the ability or passive has moved, while originally X denotes a renamed or reworked passive. The movement of these abilities and passives does indeed change which abilities and passives interact with one another, or even other effects like class sets, so keep this in the back of your mind too. We've also made adjustments to the movement of these abilities to ensure any previous progression is retained when an ability moves, and we will continue this effort through the class refresh. Yeah, they've had some issues in the past where when they've moved stuff around, you had to re-level it, it bugs out, so looks like they are hopefully getting ahead of that issue and we won't have to deal with it. All right, so Ardent Flame. I have all the skills pulled up here so we can do some easy comparisons, but yeah, we have Ardent Flame, Draconic Power, Earthen Heart. So Ardent Flame will still have Standard, it'll still have Whip, it'll still have Searing Strike. This is the Claw. Will no longer have Fiery Breath. We will now have Core of Flame, which is Inhale. This is Deep Breath. That's the commonly used damage morph anyways. Then we have Hearthfire. Instead of, so we don't have the chains in this line anymore either. We have Ash Cloud, which had Eruption and Cinderstorm. So Fiery Breath and Chains out. Deep Breath and Ash Cloud in, or Inhale and Ash Cloud in. And then still Inferno, which Flames of Oblivion is the morph that people will recognize from that. Okay, so Combustion stays, Warmth stays, Searing Hearts, or Searing Heat stays, which with some name changes here. Soul Ablaze, originally Burning Heart. So Burning Heart has moved over from Draconic Power and is now here. And World in Ruin has moved to Draconic Power. Okay. All right, for Draconic Power, still have Leap. We no longer have Spiked Armor. This looks like this is going to be now an Earthen Heart. So we have Fiery Breath, which is now Dragon Fire Breath. Dark Talons, Dragon Blood, Wing Buffet, pronounced Buffet. This one's gonna be I don't know about this name change, guys. Like, I know it's pronounced Buffett, but when you put this word following the word wing, I'm thinking about food. Like, I'm already hungry all the time anyways, but if I see wing buffet, like, nobody's gonna say Buffett. Everyone's gonna call this wing buffet. I already know it. Whatever. It is what it is. So we have the fiery grip, chains of flame is now in the Draconic Power line. Then we have the passives. Iron Skin is now Burnished Scales. World in Ruins now in this line. Elder Dragon. Then they've changed Scaled Armor. They've moved Scaled Armor into this line, and they've moved Battle Roar into this line, and they are now calling it the Storm Voice. I don't know about this name, the Storm Voice. That sounds not nearly as cool as Battle Roar, in my opinion, but let's keep going. Magma Armor still here. Stone Fist. They're calling Superheated Ward now. Molten Weapons. Obsidian Shield. Petrify. Spiked Armor is now, because they moved Ash Cloud into Ardent Flame. So now Spiked Armor is in this line. It's called Earth Spike Mantle. All right. Scaled Armor is now in this line. It's called Heart of Stone. Battle Roar is gone into the other line. This is now Avalanche passive. Blessing at the Peak, originally Mountain's Blessing, and then Mountain Giant, originally Helping Hands. I don't know about the namings. Maybe I'm just like set in my ways and don't like change or something, but like some of these names to me don't sound as good as the originals. Like Blessing at the Peak, Mountain's Blessing. Like Mountain's Blessing just sounds more like succinct and like a proper passive name to me, whereas Blessing at the Peak just is a little strange. They sound kind of AI-y. Yeah. I feel like if the core function of the skill or the passive has really changed and the fit, like it just doesn't fit at all anymore and you need to change the name, fair. But otherwise, like I feel like they changed way too much just to change the name, right? Sound childish. I like Mountain Giant better than Helping Hands. Yeah, that one's not bad. Chat GPT. I'm not loving the name changes overall. Some of them I think are fine, but I think they might need to go back through, do another pass on those and say like, okay, if this, like Battle Roar, what did they change that to? The Storm Voice. Like, I don't know. Like, that doesn't really sound like it fits Dragonknight. Battle Roar is such a cooler sound for a passive, right? So I think they need to do another pass on the renames. If stuff is really just not lining up, like if it doesn't make sense with the passive, then, you know, maybe redo that. But otherwise, just leave the names how they are. All right. But yeah, those are the movements there. Storm Voice reminds me of Sork rather than DK. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that for sure. All right. So let's move on. Additional changes and improvements. We've also made a series of additional tweaks, fixes, and improvements to the DK class. New visual and sound effects to every single Dragonknight ability. Jeez. Okay. That's crazy. I didn't think they were gonna do every single ability. Updated animations for the following Dragonknight abilities. Some of these are completely new, while others are polished to existing animations. Dragonknight Standard and its morphs. I'm not going to go through and read all this. We have updated animations for a ton of new things. Cue the food jokes. Yeah, 100%. At least they're self-aware. But yeah, tons of new animations and stuff. New flavor text added to the passives. Renamed the Dragonknight abilities to better align with their functionality and lore. Yeah, but I don't know. I would look at these again. Some of these are a bit iffy. All sources of poison damage have been updated to flame damage in the Dragonknight kit. These changes were made to better focus on the core fantasy of Dragonknight, where many affixes didn't work, synergize, or coherently mesh with poison across the entire kit. This is an L to me. We'll be reintroducing poison damage elsewhere in the game with other class refreshes. This is good, but this doesn't help us now. This doesn't help the DKs that like the poison damage, right? Or fits better into the overall theme. Like, why does a dragon character, why does poison not fit with that theme? Dragons in any lore, but like in Elder Scrolls anyway, don't have to be flame damage. Like, we have frost dragons, we have shock dragons. Like, you know, this doesn't have to be flame. Like, so to say it doesn't fit with the overall theme of the class, I don't know. And honestly, it feels to me a little bit disrespectful to the original design of the Dragonknight. And, you know, well, I shouldn't say the original, the one that we've had for what, 10 years now? I think Venomous Claw came in 2016. I'm not sure about Noxious Breath. I think it was probably around the same time. So that's 10 years we've had that as a part of the kit. So to say that it's like it doesn't fit with the theme of the class now is, I don't know. To me, that feels a bit disrespectful to the class that players have come to love. Now that said, obviously flame's a big part of it. Ultimately, what I think the best route forward is here is to give players choice, right? And as it is now, you know, if you want the bigger damage for the claw, you take Venomous Claw, right? If you want the healing, you take the flame one. So you're not really choosing the element you want, you're choosing the function that you want, and you're living with the element that you get. I don't really love that. What I would like to see is I can choose the function I want. So if I want the damage ramp up on Claw, I take that morph. If I want the heal, I take that morph. But also give me that choice of if I want it to be poison or if I want it to be flame. So, a couple suggestions here. If these could dynamically scale with the higher of your stats. So if I stacked into stamina, if my stamina is higher than my magicka, abilities like Noxious Breath, like Venomous Claw, these would be poison damage if my stamina is higher. Or if my magicka is higher, then they can take on flame damage, right? And that gives the player the choice there of how they're going to build, while still also having the choice between the morphs as well, and the function of the morphs. Another possible thing would be to take the scribing system and expand that out to not just the limited scribing abilities, right? Right now, scribing is a very, what's the word? Like it's all in a box of like, you have these very specific abilities that you can adjust, and that's that. So having scribing be able to go beyond that and also alter, maybe not in as many ways as the scribing skills, But what if the Dragonfire Breath, I think they're calling it now, what if that could be altered? It's inscribing to do flame damage as the base, like that's what you start with. That's what Zos's idea of the theme is, right? But then you could change it to poison through scribing if you wanted, if that's the theme you want to go with. Or you could change it to frost. Like, what if you could be a frost DK, right? Like, change the flame stuff to frost through scribing. So like the default base version of the DK that you start with is all flame. That's fine. But then you give the players the tools to really forge their own identity if they want to. Like, so the class identity's there. You have that, but then the players have that choice to change that up if they want. And I don't think, like, I don't really like how they said it, that the poison damage doesn't fit with the theme of the class, because it absolutely can. I do agree that the way it was done before was a little jank and doesn't quite fit with the theme of the class. Like, it was more just like, even if I wanted to be a full flame DK, some of the skills were just better as poison. So I end up with some poison in my kit just by default. That's not a great way to handle it. And so from that standpoint, I agree with what they're doing, but I think this makes the identity of the DK more about what Zos is saying. Like, here's their identity. We're giving this to you. Accept this or go play something else, right? And instead of like having that option for the player to kind of take that identity that they've given you, but then also take it somewhere else if you want. So those would be my two big suggestions. Either scale with your highest resource, which is, I prefer the scribing route, but the scale with your highest resource would at least give you two different element options. But if they could figure out a way to move more abilities into scribing, I think that would be huge. Like, people being able to play a frost DK or a poison DK or a flame DK. Let them change the elements and pick the route that they want to go. And then, people that enjoyed those poison elements of a DK, they have a route to go. They're not just being told, hey, the way that you played DK is no longer valid. We no longer see that as the identity of the DK, right? I think that's a bad route to go. So hopefully they can do something about this going forward, because as it is now, I think a lot of players are going to be upset by this. And I'm one of those. I very much, my first main was a Stam DK. It's the first class I cleared Veteran Maelstrom Arena on. Is a Stam DK. I was built, like, that was back before hybridization, before any of that. I was like a stamina Dragonknight. Like, that was my class. And to see this and where we've gone over the years, pretty much that class doesn't exist anymore at this point. So I'm fine with this overall, if they can bring in more ways in the future for us to really tailor this to our liking. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it at the moment. I don't love this. I understand why they did it, but I think it's more limiting than it should be, and hopefully we can have some solutions for it going forward. All right, enjoy new Dragonknight animations and effects. Let's see, specific Dragonknight ability changes. Okay, so we're just getting into the actual ability changes now. These are typically found in patch notes, but we wanted to delve a little deeper and share more of our thoughts surrounding each change. Cool. This is very welcome. It's this is awesome. Let me get some water and then we'll dive into all of it. All right. Ardent Flame, Dragonknight Standard. This ultimate in the Standard of Might morph no longer deal damage to enemies or apply major defile. Instead, these ultimates grant you and up to 11 allies standing in the area increased weapon and spell damage and reduced damage taken, 12%. This effect cannot stack. So it's a support ultimate. Yeah, it's a strong support ultimate, but it's now a support ultimate. Yeah, no longer deals damage. That's a huge nerf to this ability, but it's a group-wide buff. Okay, let's keep reading and then I'll give my thoughts on it here. Standard of Might. This morph significantly increases these bonuses for the caster of the ultimate. Adds 425 weapon spell damage and 13% reduced damage taken in addition to the base. So 800 weapon and spell damage for the caster and 25% reduced damage taken. All right, let's compare this to what we have now. Right now we have 15% damage done and 15% reduced damage taken. But we also have a good amount of flame damage every second. It looks like the duration is probably the same, so 16 seconds. Let me quickly look at the passives. Second. Combustion. Okay, yeah. This passive no longer extends the duration of some of your Ardent Flame. Okay. That's what I wanted to check. So Dragonknight Standard is now 16 seconds long, so it's a shorter duration. It no longer deals flame damage. The personal damage done buff is 800 weapon and spell damage compared to 15% damage done. That's probably somewhat similar. Maybe slightly. It's probably slightly weaker for the damage done, but it's roughly in the same ballpark. So that's not a huge nerf on that part. So you get 800 weapon and spell damage because everyone gets 375, then you get another 425 on top of that. So that's 800 total the caster gets. So you get 800 weapon and spell damage for 16 seconds and also 25% reduced damage taken. So the reduced damage taken is actually quite a buff. So you'll be super tanky while this is active. Shifting Standard, this morph continues to work as originally designed, dealing damage and applying major defile. Okay, so this one is just the way it used to be, with there's no buffs on this. It's just a flame damage ult for 25 seconds. Yeah, with no special buffs on it. Yeah, the synergy should be the same. If they didn't mention it, if they don't mention something, I would assume that it is unchanged. All right, let me think here. So, obviously this is going to be an insanely good support ult to have. It lasts for 16 seconds. You're going to want to just chain these, essentially. So every 16 seconds, a new member of your group casts this. You just chain it Your group has a constant extra 375 weapon and spell damage, constant extra 12% reduced damage taken. I mean, these are really significant group buffs. So from the support standpoint, this is really strong. For the personal damage point of view, like, you're only getting 425 weapon and spell damage over what you'd already be getting. Like, think of the opportunity cost. So like, I could cast a different ultimate instead of this as my personal damage ult. Like, if someone in the group is running, is already casting this, and I'm sitting in their standard and getting these buffs, I could cast something else. And since this no longer deals any flame damage, I don't think 425 weapon and spell damage for 16 seconds for a 250 cost ult, that's not worth it for your own personal damage. It's a nice little boon for those that are in support jail and have to cast this. Like, that's a nice extra bit that they get to make it not feel like they're at a complete loss compared to the group as they cast this. Like if it was only this, and so like you don't get anything on top of what the group is getting, like that would feel really bad, right? But since you get 800 weapon and spell damage instead of the 375, and you get 25% reduced damage taken instead of the 12, it doesn't feel terrible to be in support jail for this, I guess is what I'm saying. But if you're not in support jail, then you're not going to want to cast this as a damage ult. So ultimately, like, it's a support ult now. It's not a ult to just use for your own personal damage. It's a support ult. I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, but it also feels kind of it feels kind of weird considering this was like the big damage ult for DKs. I don't know. I'm probably gonna have to sit with this for a bit. I don't hate it, but I also don't like that they took away the flame damage. Like, even if it's like reduced amount of flame damage, like that was such an iconic part of this skill, is that it deals flame damage in an area. Like, why take that away completely? I mean, I know you can still get it on shifting standard. Like, maybe, like, would this be worth it? 898 flame damage every second for 25 seconds. Like, that was 26. I mean, that's a pretty fat tooltip over that duration. For 25 seconds. So, like, maybe you could run the shifting standard morph and cast that while others are running the standard of might morph. And shifting standard is cheaper, yeah. That could be interesting. Obviously, if no one is running this, you're going to want to run this so that everyone in the group has it. But if someone's already running this, these are already accounted for. Shifting standard could be pretty decent. I mean, the tooltip is pretty good. And if you need to move it with this morph, you can. I don't know. This is a lot to take in, to be honest. Yeah, a lot of you are mentioning the weapon and spell damage versus the percent damage done. I don't think I haven't, maybe I haven't commented on it enough, but I don't think that's a negative, right? I don't think it's a bad thing for them to go to weapon and spell damage versus percent damage done. And if I conveyed that I did, that was that wasn't my intent. I was just saying the amount of damage you're getting from the increase in weapon and spell damage, the 375 plus the 425, the 800 total, should be roughly on par with what the 15% you're getting before from standard to might. But probably slightly lower. Well, maybe not. Yeah, they're comparable. That's fine. I know a lot of you are saying like this will boost your heals now too. Like that. Yeah, I'm not saying this is a worse route for that part. My main concern is that the flame damage is gone, and this additional boost for being the caster of it on top of what your group gets is not enough to make it like a personal damage ult, which makes sense if it is a support ult, right? Like that's kind of what they have to do, right? It can't be as good as casting a damage ult while you're inside of someone else's support ult, right? Because then everyone's just casting this, and it's just this chaos of everyone casting the same ult, right? But losing the flame damage feels bad. Like even if it's there in a diminished form, I feel like this should still deal flame damage. But then again, you do have that flame damage still on shifting standard. This could be a combo to look at, I think. Have this as your support ult. Somebody cast this. Have this as a damage ult. So you're running the shifting standard ult while you're benefiting from someone else's. That's still a net loss though, versus what we had before. You're losing 3% reduced damage taken, because that was 15% before. You still have your flame damage from casting this, but then your 375 weapon and spell damage is way lower than the 15% damage done from before. So I don't know. I don't know if shifting standard will be the way to go. All right. Anyways, this is one we'll have to think about more. I don't hate the change overall, but it is kind of weird to see Standard of Might now become a support ultimate in like a, you know, a jail ultimate instead of just this is DK's like strong damage ult. You know, that part is a little weird to me, but you know, maybe this is better overall, and I'm just like clinging to stuff because I don't want it to change. At the very minimum, maybe keeping the damage on there, but in a lesser form, so you still have that like fantasy of dealing flame damage in a big area. But we'll go ahead and move on. All right, Lava Whip. This ability becomes a Volcanic Whip for 7.9 seconds after it damages an off-balance enemy. This time window activation can occur only once every 20 seconds. So they're kind of moving the Flame Lash functionality into the base morph. Volcanic Whip costs half as much, deals 33% more damage, and deals its damage in a 5-meter radius around the original target. So it no longer does this to enemies that are off balance. It turns into a special buff for, I don't know why they just didn't do 8 seconds, but this is weird, but this is Zoss we're talking about here also. So now instead of doing this to off balance enemies, you get a buff for 8 seconds that after you damage an off balance enemy. Okay. This change was made to help introduce the Flame Lash morph gameplay element sooner, while also making the window of interaction with off balance less restrictive. You now get a guaranteed window of time after hitting the off-balance target, rather than being forced to drop everything once you're doing once off-balance is active. That's good. That's actually really good, because it doesn't matter necessarily when the off-balance occurs. You choose when you want that buff to start by targeting that off-balance enemy with this skill. So as soon as you hit that off-balance enemy with Lava Whip, you get your buff. So you trigger it when you're ready for it. Sorry, just 1 second. My cat will not be quiet, and I can't think. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, these abilities no longer set immobilized or stun enemies off balance. We've sourced off balance on a new passive you'll read about later. Okay. Cat debuff, yeah. Okay. Overall, I think this is pretty cool. This is nice. I mean, 5 meter radius as well. It does have a 20-second cooldown, so the extra damage where you're dealing like as much as jabs, essentially, because that's what this essentially does, right? It makes it deal jabs damage. So you start with 23, and then you get 33% more. That's 3096. Fighting. Puncturing strikes is 889 times 3. Okay, so it's more than jabs damage. 919 times 3. Okay, yeah, it does hit harder than jabs in an AoE, but it's only for that 8-second window, and it has a 20-second cooldown. That seems fair. That seems fair, considering jabs is just like, is what it is at all times. Yeah, because 23 is the base tooltip. And then you get that increase, so that's pretty strong. That's a pretty strong tooltip. All right, let's look at the morphs. This morph now heals you anytime the ability deals damage, rather than only when the Power Lash version is active. This morph sees the same changes to activating Power Lash as the base ability does. So now you always get a heal when you cast Flame Lash. That's pretty cool. So you get a heal when you cast it at any time. When you have the special version up, you still get a heal from it. I'm guessing because you get 2760 health. You get the health at the additional like damage amount. So I wonder if that's still the case, like based on your tooltip. So like if you have the lesser version going, your heal's smaller, but then when it flips over into Volcanic Whip, you get the higher heal. I don't know. I think that's pretty cool. An on-demand heal, like, yeah, that's especially for like early DK gameplay, like leveling up and stuff. You know, Templar is such a nice class for new players because you can just slot jabs and heal through everything. So giving DKs an option to also do that. I mean, not just leveling up, but that's like definitely a point where I've noticed a big difference in some of the classes. This is good. Yeah, I like the change to Flame Lash. I like the change to the base morph. I think this is really good. Let's see what they did with Molten Whip. All right, this morph continues to rework the ability into a more self-contained building effect focused on high single target burst damage. It remains split in costs of magicka and stamina, but now generates stacks when using any Dragonknight ability other than itself instead of only building off Ardent Flame abilities. That's really good. Calculators in, oh, sorry about that. Let me actually move this here. Yeah, that way if I have it up again, it'll not be in the way. Okay. Let's start that over. This morph continues to rework the ability into a more self-contained building effect focused on high single target burst damage. It remains split in costs in magicka and stamina, but now generates stacks when using any Dragonknight ability other than itself, instead of only building off Ardent Flame abilities. This should make the build-up more rewarding while using more Dragonknight ability, heavy rotation, and feeling more organic and rhythmic to use. Adjusted the stack bonus to 33% per stack, up from 20%. Oh, that's nice. So 100% additional damage. Yeah, so 46 for the tooltip at 3 stacks now. That hits hard. Ooh, that's juicy. That's juicy. Okay, I like this. Adjust the stack bonus to 33% per stack, up from 20%, but reduce the duration to 10 seconds, down from 15 to account for the new ability timers. I think that's fine. If it's going to stack on any Dragonknight ability, it's like a DK bow proc. Yeah, exactly. If it's going to stack from any Dragonknight ability, and then their timers for their skills are reduced. This is great. So what I'm seeing here is that, and think about this too, they're introducing respecs whenever you want, right? You can do it from your UI. You go through trash, you have the Flame Lash morph, you whip in an AoE through trash, you get to the boss, you switch it to Molten Whip, and you do Molten Whip on the boss. That's how I'm seeing this initially anyways. Looks pretty good. Or I guess, if you need the heals, you could stay with Flame Lash, of course, but they didn't mention the weapon and spell damage increase, if that's going to stay the same. So I'm assuming that's still there if they're not going to mention it, but that might be something we need to keep an eye on. Yeah, respecs are now free from the UI. You don't need to go anywhere anymore to respec. So if you're running a dungeon or a trial, get to the boss, you can respec however you want. That was part of their quality of life adjustments. So that'll be huge for this dynamic between the two morphs here. All right. Overall, I think this is really good. The only suggestion I think I would give is maybe have Flame Lash cost the higher of your magicka or stamina. So kind of like the Arcanist abilities do. Because as it is now, like Molten Whip, you can use it as a Stam DK or a Mag DK equally well because it costs half and half. Why not give that to Flame Lash or make Flame Lash scale with the higher of the two resources, right? Yeah, you can respec in trials. They did confirm that when they were asked about it. Okay, cool. Yeah, that would be my only real nitpick with this. I think other than that, it's really good. But yeah, maybe Flame Lash scales with your highest resource and costs that, so that Stam DKs can use Flame Lash too. Because right now, Stam DKs won't be able to use this, only Mag DKs, whereas they can both use Molten Whip. But yeah, other than that, it looks good. All right, Searing Strike. This ability in morphs now lasts for 10 seconds, down from 20 seconds, but deal 50% more damage per second to make up for the shorter duration. Ooh, that's good. I love it. I love this. Hi, Abby. Come sit in my lap. Come sit in my lap and be good. All right. This morph has Venomous Claw. This morph has been reworked to Searing Claw, which deals flame damage instead of poison damage. It remains a stamina morph that increases damage per tick, which has been increased to match the same power increase with the shorter duration. So this is going to hit like a truck. Again, we know we talked about this earlier, but my only real complaint here is the removal of choice of poison damage, which I guess you didn't really have the choice before either. So essentially they're saying we're gonna do flame damage instead of poison. You didn't really have a choice before. You kind of did, because you could pick flame or poison, but like if you wanted the extra damage, you picked poison. If you didn't, if you wanted the heal, you picked flame. So I get why they did this, but you know, I'll try not to harp on this too much as we keep going through this, because it's going to come up, I'm guessing, a few times as they talk about removing the poison damage. But I really think some way to affect skills with scribing to do the damage type that you want within reason. You know, so Searing Claw could do poison damage, flame damage, frost damage, stuff like that. I think that's the way to go. I think that would be sick. Or at the bare minimum, if my stamina is higher than my magicka, this deals poison damage. If my magicka is higher than my stamina, then it deals flame damage. So you give the players the choice there. Something though, to give that choice and not just be like, hey, all of you guys that loved the poison in your kits, yeah, sorry, that's not a thing anymore. But yeah, I won't bring that up too much anymore. Like I feel like I've already hit that point a bunch. There's not a good reason to keep reiterating it, but it's, y'all know how I feel about it now. Okay, but this is awesome. Yeah, 10 seconds and it ramps up in damage per tick. So same power increase with the shorter duration. Like, it's gonna hit like a truck. It's gonna feel great. Burning Embers. The heal from this morph now scales off max health rather than damage done to offer a more helpful tool for tanks to gain some staying power in combat. This is cool. So you got what, a 10-second heal, scales off your max health, and deals some damage. I'm okay with that. Keep hitting that point, bro. All right. Yeah, and sorry, everyone in chat, I know I'm missing a lot of messages right now. We have a lot to get through. Once we're through it all, I'm more than happy to get into like a discussion with everybody about all the changes. I intend on doing that. So sorry if I'm missing some of y'all's points about this right now. The Elfbane point is good to bring up too, because that will bring it from 10 to 15 seconds on all of the flame damage, which could be quite interesting for Elfbane. Yeah, so we'll see how that interacts with some of this stuff. All right, but yeah, overall Searing Strike, aside from losing poison damage as an option in my kit, I think this is a great change. So Molten Whip or Lava Whip, great changes. Just want to see some way for Stam DKs to do this. Searing Strike, great changes. Our Dragonknight Standard, I'm still iffy on, but it's going to be a really strong support ult now. All right, next up we have Core of Flame. This ability so this was Inhale before. Pull that up for y'all. That was under Draconic Power. Now it's in Ardent Flame. Inhale. You breathe in, you deal damage. When you breathe in, you breathe out, you deal a bigger chunk of damage. This, on the deep breath morph, increased. But ended up being like over a 3k base tooltip. Pretty strong hitting ability. Not as strong as something like Blast Bones that has the same cadence. Blast Bones is like a 3600 base tooltip. Whereas this one is 3119. So not far off from Blast Bones, but also not quite as high. That's the current version that we have. So let's see what they've done with it. This ability morphs no longer deal damage instantly or heal for the damage caused. Okay. These abilities now restore 15% of your missing magicka and stamina 3 times over 4 seconds. They continue to deal damage around you after the duration ends. So only damage when it ends, but it's just a magicka and stamina restore leading up to that point. The thing is, these are very expensive abilities. Like 3510, 3510. Yeah, all the morphs are 3510 as the base cost. Like, they're not cheap. So I wonder if they've adjusted the base cost of it. Because if you're costing a really if you're casting an ability that's very expensive in order to get sustain back, that feels a little bit weird maybe, but I mean 15% of your missing magic and stam, 15% of your missing mag and stam. So the more you're missing, the more restore you get from this. So if you're only missing like, 25%, it's a pretty small amount you'll be getting back. But if you're like missing like, 75% of your resources, then that's a big chunk you're going to be getting back. It's kind of a neat concept. And they continue to deal damage around you after it ends. So now it's 4 seconds. So is it going to just be this piddly little hit of 1742 for a 4-second skill? If that's the case, that's not going to feel good. But I guess this is just the base morph. So let's look at the actual morphs. Soul of Flame, originally Deep Breath. This morph continues to add an interrupt on the initial activation, but it now interrupts after a 350 millisecond delay instead of instantly. For better visual syncing, that's fine. This morph also continues to increase the damage of the explosion, which has increased to a 33% bonus, up from 25%. Now, is this also on the 4-second timer, though, or does it go back to the 2.5-second timer? I'm guessing this is on the 4-second timer. So if we look at Deep Breath, morph has increased damage to the explosion, 33% instead of 25. Okay, so this is a 25% increase to 1742, I'm guessing. That was 155, 21. Well, that doesn't quite add up, but what would a 33% increase be? 17, or is it 1799 times 1.25? 22. Oh, there it is. Okay. And it just rounds up to 2249. Okay. So instead of 2249, excuse me, we're going to have 2398 as the final hit. 870 as the initial. So 3268 every 4 seconds. It's not awful. Not as good as Blast Bones or Shulks overall, but it also is essentially like a sustain tool. It says the initial it does have an interrupt to the initial activation, but it doesn't say if that part deals damage. So this might not be right here. We might just be getting the 2398 every 4 seconds, which is going to feel really bad to cast for damage if that's the case. Yeah, I'm not sure about this one. This is one of those. This is one of those I think we'll have to like see the actual tooltips and mess with it. But I don't know. Ability and morphs don't deal damage. Yeah. Oh, it says ability and the morphs don't deal damage? Oh, it does. The ability and morphs no longer deal damage instantly. So this interrupt does not deal damage. Yeah, that feels pretty bad. This is not going to be worth casting for damage. So essentially, they just want you to cast this skill to help with your sustain. Yeah. I don't know about this. I don't think this is going to feel very good to use for damage anymore. Based on what I'm seeing here. Based on what I'm seeing here. Like before subclassing, this was an awesome AoE skill to use for Dragonites. You know, I always had this slotted in my trash setups. It was a really strong AoE ability to use. This version though, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be worth it unless you need the sustain help. But if you need the sustain help, I don't think you're going to want to cast an ability every 4 seconds. That's not good for damage to help you with that. This is a PvP morph. Well, there's no PvE morph then. Because this morph now heals you. No longer adds magicka. Yeah. So there is no PvE morph then, if that's what you're saying. Like, which feels bad, right? So why not move the interrupt? Why not move the interrupt onto this morph that heals you? You have a heal. You have an interrupt. That's a great PvP morph. And then take this morph, give it the upfront hit, give it the increased explosion at the end. You have an awesome damage morph too. Right? Because as it is now, this doesn't seem very appealing for damage at all. I agree. For PvP, I could still see it being nice to line up the delayed burst. You got 4 seconds. And then it goes off. But yeah, for PvE, this is going to feel bad. It's not going to be a fun skill to use. So I think they need to work on that. My suggestion would be to move the interrupt here. So you have a heal and an interrupt. And then have this just deal damage on the initial hit and on the explosion, or just deal way more damage than this on the explosion. So no interrupt, no heal, but bigger damage on the explosion, like much bigger than this. Then again, that could be busted for PvP, so that's why I think it's better how they had it before, to have some damage on that initial hit too, so that it's more spread out, which allows you to put more damage in the whole skill without it being too busted for PvP. Whereas this version, like if you just really crank up the end explosion, you have nothing at the beginning. It affects PvP way more in that regard, if that makes sense. So yeah, I don't love this change. I gotta say, this is the first one I came to that I don't think this is gonna feel good. I'm fine with the 4 second timer. It's whatever. I don't think this is going to feel good to use for damage, though. For PvE anyways, so we'll dig into it more on the PTS, but that's my thoughts for now. All right, now we have Hearthfire. This ability in the original Cinderstorm morph now grant minor fortitude and heroism to allies inside the area, rather than slowing enemies' movement. Increase the radius to 8 meters, up from 5 on all versions of this ability. Hell yeah, that's awesome. That's really good. A really big area. You get minor heroism, minor fortitude for all allies inside the area. I'm sure that's going to be capped at 6 still, because that's what they do. But yeah, that looks good. All right, Firekeeper, originally Cinderstorm. So this was the healing morph. This morph continues to increase the healing effectiveness by 50%, but now only does so if the caster is inside the area of effect. Oh. To make up for this, however, it also causes minor fortitude and heroism to stick to allies for 15 seconds after being healed. That's pretty cool. So you can't just like be back away and like putting this in a spot. You need to be up in the action too for this to work. And then we have Earthen Home, originally Eruption. This morph no longer reworks the ability into a damaging effect. Instead, no. This is the worst thing I've read so far in this. This is the worst thing I've read in this document so far. This morph continues to reduce enemy movement speed. This morph now grants the caster major protection while inside the area to make the ability more valuable to tanks. No, this is not the way. You know, this was such a cool ability for different playstyles because it had the different morphs. Like you could choose the healing morph if you wanted to be like take it as a tank or a healer. You could choose the damage morph if you're taking it on a damage dealer. Like that's how more abilities should be, not less. Like you shouldn't be taking that away from abilities. This is the wrong. I'm going to adamantly say that this is the wrong direction. This feels bad. You don't want to take away. You don't want to take away tools like that. That's. Yeah, major protections, whatever. You can get that in a lot of ways. I mean, you can just slot a skill on your front bar to get that. No. If anything, let's see. Yeah, move one of these things to this morph. Or tone down this one. Like, get rid of the, the sticky part here. Move major protection into this for the caster. So this gives you major protection if you're inside of it. Increases the healing effectiveness. Like juiced up healing morph and leave this as damage. Like, yeah, I mean, this is really nice. Honestly, this doesn't feel necessary. Yeah, I really don't like this. I think they need to go back to the drawing board here. I think this morph seems cool. I like what they're doing here. Taking away a damage morph for damage dealers. That's not good. This is the first thing I've come, like, I've had some disagreements with stuff they're doing in here, but it's like stuff that I can sort of live with. But this is the first thing I think where I'm just like, nah. Why are you taking player choice of going with the healing or a damage morph and being like, no, this is only healing now? Like that seems the opposite direction of how we should be going. Completely disagree with this here. This is one of the like iconic DK damage abilities too, Eruption. Like It's such an iconic ability, and you're just gonna say no, this no longer exists in the game. This is, yeah, and people aren't even gonna take this morph, right? There's no way a tank is gonna take this morph over providing buffs to their allies with this. Like, nah, this ain't the way. This is not the way. Please, please, Zos, keep this as a damage ability. This is your I think this is y'all's first big misstep so far that we've got to. I don't love this for PvE. I think it definitely needs some work, but this is just absolutely not. This is not the way. Searing Strike is badass. Good job there. Lava Whip is badass. Great job there. The jury's out for Dragonknight Standard being a support ult now. I don't know. Core of Flame is not loving what I'm seeing, but Earthen Home, originally Eruption. Yeah, and don't just call it Eruption. Eruption was cool. Earthen Home is like, what? That's not a good name for it either. Like, just leave it as Eruption, please. Jeez. This, I don't like this at all. Sounds like a housing DLC update. Yeah. ChatGPT named it. Y'all have been saying that, but honestly, a lot of these names do sound like ChatGPT names. I'm not gonna lie. Soul of Flame, Heart of Flame, Firekeeper, Earthen Home. Like, I don't know about this. Anyways, you don't like the name changes either? Yeah, I'm not a big fan of a lot of the name changes. Literally a Skyrim DLC? Yeah. I think they need to go back through all the names and be like, is this a necessary name change to make? If it is, because the ability is fundamentally different, okay, change the name. If not, just leave the names how they were before. There's nothing wrong with the names. They're really cool names before. It almost feels like the devs just want it to be like their new thing, like, which is a little bit disrespectful to the original Dragonknight, right? And the original creators of the Dragonknight too. Like, it feels a little bit disrespectful to it to just go through and be like, nah, we're just gonna change every name, essentially. Not every name, but they're changing most of the names, it seems like. But yeah, the names are pretty corny. I do agree with that. I would say try to leave as many of the names as you can, unless it just really doesn't fit. All right, so we have Inferno. This ability in the Flames of Oblivion morph now fire a massive wave of flame in an 8-meter radius, rather than firing a limited number of fireballs to enemies in a 15-meter radius. This removes the original target cap of the abilities. We increase the cost to $40.50 per activation, up from $21.60 to account for the new area melting potential. So this is expensive now. This is like almost twice the cost. Reduce the chance of applying the burning status effect to 5%, down from 10 to account for these changes. I mean, yeah, it dealt single target direct damage before, so it was 10%. Now it's AoE direct damage. So that makes sense that they would change that. Man, this is tough to... This is a tough pill to swallow too, because on one hand, having a massive like wave of flame in an 8-meter radius around you sounds really cool, but on the other hand, Flames of Oblivion is such a cool skill with the fireballs firing out, and I hate to think that that's just not going to exist in the game anymore, right? Like, that's really sad. So we have the Flames of Oblivion morph, which you're also renaming to Incinerate. Yeah, I feel like they're leaving too much of the DK behind without an option to like retain what you had before. Like, this is cool, like as a new ability added in, but I don't love that I lose my Flames of Oblivion, right? Like, You know, if this was just a new skill, like if every class line was getting new skills added to it, like this would be so badass to add in. Like I agree, this sounds awesome. But when we're losing things to get these new things, it's kind of sad. Like I love the look of Flames of Oblivion. I love the fireballs floating around you and shooting out. Like it's such a cool looking ability, and it feels good. It does great damage. So this morph now deals 10% more damage and has 15% base chance of applying burning. Now that the morph can no longer increase the target count. Okay, so I mean, it sounds like it's going to be awesome, right? It sounds like it's going to be really good. You can probably still spam it for AoE damage too. Although that might not be the best thing you'd want to do, because you want it to just tick on its own every time it fires out. But at what cost, right? At 1 wave every 5 seconds for 15 seconds. That's what I would assume, since they didn't mention that they changed anything. Yeah, I mean, abilities like this, if you have a strong enough spammable, you don't want to spam them, right? Because you get the damage 4 times over 15 seconds. That's how the original one worked. That's why you don't spam Flames of Oblivion, and except for in like certain niche circumstances. You don't spam Flames of Oblivion, even though it's great damage to 3 targets, because you want that passive damage from it. Because that's worth more to get 4 hits for free, or 4 hits for 1 cast over 15 seconds, rather than having to use a GCD for it over and over to spam it. Whereas you can cast this and get those hits and spam something else. So you typically don't want to use abilities like this as a spammable, but in a pinch you can, and it works that way. I think this sounds really cool. I can't say that I dislike this. Like, this sounds like a really cool addition to the kit. I just don't like that we're losing Flames of Oblivion to get it. And I assume the healing morph is the same, because they didn't mention it at all. The healing morph is pretty strong. It's good. You get, what, every 3 seconds? Up to you or 4 nearby allies, sends out heals for them. So I'm guessing that's staying the same, but this is changing. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being cranky. Back in my day, kind of thoughts. Right now, I'm that kind of mentality, but like, this sounds really good. I just, like, I don't want to lose my Flames of Oblivion, right? I don't know. We'll see, I guess. Right there with you on the ultimate crankiness. Anyways, we'll go on. We'll keep moving. Combustion. This passive now grants you 225 at rank 2 when applying burning with an Ardent Flame ability with a 1-second cooldown, rather than 423 with a 3-second cooldown. Wait, when applying burning with an Ardent Flame ability slotted. Okay, I thought you had to apply the burning with an Ardent Flame ability. Okay. You have to have an Ardent Flame ability slotted or this passive doesn't work. And you get 225 magicka and stamina every 1 second from this versus 423. 423, oops, every 3 seconds. So the potential for a good bit more sustain here, assuming you are really triggering burning a lot, right? If you're not triggering burning as much, this could end up worse because you like it has a 1 second cooldown, so you need burning to be triggering more than it's actually ticking for. So potential for better sustain with this, potential for worse sustain with this, I guess, depending on how often you're triggering burning. Again, they remove the poison from this, and the passive no longer increases the damage done by burning or poison. Let's move to a different, okay. The burning has been moved to a different passive. So poison no longer will trigger combustion, only burning. Traumatic burns, originally warmth. This passive now causes enemies you've damaged with a direct Ardent Flame ability to take 5% increased flame damage while reducing their movement speed by 15% at rank 1, 30% at rank 2. So no more boosts to your damage over time effects. Now Engulfing Flames bonus is here, they're saying. 5% increased flame damage. Does it? Oh, for 5 seconds. You have to deal direct Ardent Flame damage. Yeah, so if you just slot this ability, you're already taken care of for your engulfing buff. Or whatever it's called now. Traumatic burns. This bro, these names. These names. Traumatic burns. Like what? I don't know, man. Traumatic changes. Yeah, I feel like people are very mixed on these. Like for the most part, a lot of these additions are really cool for me, but it's more about what they're taking away that that's bothering me. Engulfing is 6%, right? Pretty sure Engulfing Flames is 6%. So you lose 1% there. This is okay, I guess. I don't love it. Because essentially, like, you would be benefiting from engulfing already. So now you're just losing your dot damage increase. I don't know. I feel like this needs this. It's not. There are bigger things to nitpick, I guess. This is whatever, but I don't love it. I don't necessarily hate it either. I don't like the name though. Traumatic burns is weird. All right, fan the flames. Originally searing heat. This passive now increases your chance of applying burning by 50%. So instead of 33% increased chance. Let me make sure I'm saying that right. Yeah, it was 33% before. So no longer increased poison status chance. You only get burning. Increases it by 50% though instead of 33. So a bigger increase to that chance. And the damage it does by 25% at rank 2. These values increase by 10% at rank 2 and 5% at rank 2 per Dragonknight ability slotted. Okay. Alright, let's just say we have 3 Dragonknight abilities slotted. That would be an 80% increased chance to apply burning, which is crazy. That's really high. And it would be a 25, 30, 30, 35, 40% damage increase for burning. Oh, wait, no, this was just the damage, not the chance to apply before. Sorry, guys. Yeah, I read this wrong. My apologies. Let's take a step back. Previously, this increased the damage of your burning and poison status effects. It didn't increase your chance to apply. Now, your chance to apply it is greatly increased. And the damage of the burning is greatly increased. So if you have two Dragonknight abilities slotted, you'll get more burning damage than before per tick, but you don't get the poison damage increase anymore. So poison, you'll go up in burning damage, you'll go down in poison damage. Because as far as I know, you'll probably still run a poison glyph if you're running dual wield. Passive no longer extends the duration or damage of some of your Ardent Flame abilities. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I'm glad they got rid of that. Glad they got rid of that. This is good. I think this is good. Yeah, this is strong. I really like, let's go back to the 3 skill example. If you have 3 Dragonknight abilities slotted, 80% increase to your chance to apply burning, and 40% increase to the damage of burning. Like that's a lot of burning, you know. That's really strong. So I think this is fine. Again, I don't like that they've left poison behind, but again, I said I wouldn't keep harping on that, so we'll move on. Then we have A Soul Ablaze, originally Burning Heart. This passive increases healing taken at all times by 8%, rather than 9% when meeting certain conditions. This is kind of boring. Like 8% healing taken is... it's okay, but like... yeah, this is just kind of boring. I think they could... I think Zoss can cook better with this. I'll say that. Let's keep cooking. This is this doesn't really seem like it meshes with everything else going on. But yeah, combustion seems fine. Let's just put all the poison stuff aside for now and speak about it assuming like that's just gone and that is what it is. It's not coming back. There's nothing we can do about it. Combustion seems pretty good. You're going to be applying burning like crazy because of the increase to your chance here and Fan the Flames. So that's fine. Traumatic burns it's whatever, I guess. Putting Engulfing Flames effect in there. I don't love it, but whatever. It's fine. Fan the Flames is a really good passive. This is going to add a ton of burning damage. And then A Soul Ablaze is honestly pretty boring. To just cap it off with an 8% healing taken buff. Like, it seems very boring compared to the others. Yeah. Alright. Draconic Power. Dragon Leap. So that's it for Ardent Flame. Alright, we've rebuilt how this ability handles the movement aspect under the hood to be more modern, fixing numerous inconsistencies compared to other movement abilities and unique bug cases. We fixed numerous issues with the knockback being desynced from the actual damage impact, which should also make it easier to counteract the CC effects as an opponent. This ability and the Take Flight morph now deal flame damage rather than physical damage. We reduced the damage of the base ability by 16% to account for the damage change, as there are numerous ways to amplify this effect back to similar or higher values. Okay. I think that's fine. Deals flame damage, synergizes better with the kit. It's whatever. I mean, physical versus flame, I don't think really matters too much on this ability. Kind of whatever. Take flight. This morph now fills you with Draconic Fury for 15 seconds after activation, which increases your damage down by 10% and doubles against monsters. This morph no longer extends the range or reduces the cost. Decrease the base damage by 19% to account for other potential damage increases. This is excuse me. This is awesome. This is really cool. Take flight. So 42, 41 damage was what we got before. They said they've reduced that by 16%. So I wonder if they're saying they reduced the base damage by 16% and this is by another 19%, or if they're saying compared to what we have currently, it's 19% lower. You know, because it's about a 5k tooltip base right now, so be about a 4k tooltip roughly. I'm not sure which route they're going there. If it's like 16% damage reduction and then another 19% off that, or if it's saying like this is compared to what we have on live. Either way though, honestly it doesn't really matter, because now you get 10% more damage for 15 seconds for PvP, which is awesome, or 20% more damage for PvE for 15 seconds after you cast this, which is also awesome. This is cool. This is really cool. Essentially this kind of works similarly to like an end cap now, except it's all of your damage done, not just against a single target. It does cost more than an end cap. It costs more, but the damage works in an AoE. So, you know, using this, take flight, while somebody else is using their standard of might. You know, you're sitting in somebody else's standard and you're using take flight. That sounds pretty juicy. I want to say it costs what, like 130 or something, 125, 110, even better. So it's still 40 more cost than in cap, but you'll get the damage for 15 seconds into all your damage. Yeah, it's cheap. It's good. I like this. I really, really like this. I think this is an awesome way to make this skill PvE relevant. I think it's an awesome, awesome way to make this skill PvE relevant, and it hasn't been, ever. It's still great in PvP, just a little bit less burst on this morph. Well, I guess on probably on both morphs, but less bursty, but your follow-up after your leap will now deal more damage. So, you know, even for PvP, this is still awesome. But now it has PvE use too. This is perfect. Like, this is exactly what we need to be doing. Like, adding in these changes that make more skills relevant for both modes of gameplay. This is awesome. Yeah, I really like this one. Okay, and then Ferocious Sleep, this morph now instantly applies the damage shield for 10 seconds instead of applying it after a delay for 6 seconds. Increase the potency by 4%. This morph now knocks enemies up rather than away to make it more tank friendly. Depending on feedback, we may make this change to crowd control a universal one, as there's value in many cases to have it be less disruptive. The only reason we haven't so far is because it takes away some of the badass feeling of crashing down like a dragon and pushing foes backwards. I'm kind of torn on this one for the very reasons they said. Like, knocking up makes it easier to not be disruptive, but knocking back looks badass. That's a tough dilemma there. I mean, on bosses, it doesn't matter because the knockback won't work. So like with Ferocious Leap, or with Take Flight, using this on bosses, it's fine. There's no knockback because bosses are immune to knockback. This is making it more tank friendly though, so they can control the fight rather than disrupt it. Like, I don't see tanks using this skill. Ain't no way. Ain't no way tanks are using Leap for a damage shield. Like that. So that's weird. So I don't know, maybe I don't see this morph being very popular. This Ferocious Leap morph, unless it had like some of this benefit still and a damage shield. I mean, DD's using it, but DDs aren't going to use this morph either. DDs are going to use this morph, so yeah, I don't know about this one. I love the Take Flight morph. I love what they did here. The Ferocious Sleep, not loving that. All right, Dragonfire Breath. Originally Fiery Breath. Decrease the duration to 10 seconds, down from 20. Awesome. And increase the damage per second by 50%. The ability is now Stamina ability at its base. Okay. Great. I love the 10-second timers. This is good. And they're not extended by any passives anymore. They're getting rid of those. So, having it go down, it's just actually 10 seconds now. So it's going to be a lot of damage squished down into that 10-second window, which is awesome. Yeah, really like this. All right, Disintegrating Dragonfire. Originally Noxious Breath. Like, why have they changed everything? Engulfing Flames, Engulfing Dragonfire. Like, whatever, it's fine, I guess. This morph now deals flame damage rather than poison. Something, poison damage, gripes. Okay, we got that out of the way. It remains a stamina ability and continues to add major breach while applying the respective status effect and now burning to all enemies affected by the initial hit. This is fine. Other than the poison damage gripes, like this is fine. Major breach is a great tool to have in your kit. Auto burning makes it actually an okay spammable too. With the crazy increase to your burning damage now, spamming this and getting that initial tick of burning on everything over and over could be an okay spammable, but I think, what's it called, the whip, that's gonna be what you probably want to spam for AoE now that deals 5 meter radius AoE damage. All right. Yeah, this is fine. Then we have Engulfing Dragonfire. This morph is now the rework morph, which costs magicka instead of stamina. Yeah, I don't like that. Like, why not have them cost the higher of your resources, right? Or the lower, for that matter. This could cost, I don't like them like forcing you into like stamina ability or magicka ability. That part seems kind of weird. But this morph is now the rework morph, costs magicka instead of stamina. This morph now channels the flame attack in front of you over 4.8 seconds. Deals 20% increased damage when it hits an enemy, up to once every second, and up to a maximum of 80%. While Take Flight is active, this deals maximum damage. This damage is considered direct damage. Okay. Oh, hold on. This is funny. This is cool. Engulfing Flames. $17.99 was the base tooltip here. $17.99 times 1.8. $32.38 in an AoE. It's not as strong. It's not gonna hit like Arcanist Beam. It's not that hard hitting. But it's stronger than something like Jabs. Granted, you lose your light attack in between each GCD, but if you're using Velothi, it doesn't matter. So now for single target, this has to build up 20, 40, 60, 80 over each hit. For AoE though, it says deals 20% increased damage when it hits an enemy. So if you hit 4 enemies, do you automatically start at 80%? That's something we'll need to test. It says once per second. Right. But if you hit 4 enemies in the first second, deals 20% increased damage when it hits an enemy up to once every second. So if you hit 4 enemies in the first second, like your initial blast hits 4 enemies at once, I don't know. I think we need to look at it at least. My knee-jerk reaction is no, because Zos. It can only increase once per second. Right. Like, say you only hit 1 enemy. Then the next enemy you hit, it goes up to 40. The next enemy, up to 60. Then up to 80. It can only increase once per second. But if you automatically start at the maximum, then you're at the maximum. Maybe? I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here. Deals 20% increased damage when it hits an enemy. Yeah, I think the wording maybe, y'all might be right. It might just be whether it hits 1 enemy or 6 enemies. It just deals 20% increased damage. So it ramps up. But while Take Flight is active, this deals maximum damage. The problem with this is this is going to be like an AoE skill, obviously. Well, maybe not. I mean, it could do fine for single target too. Like if you use Take Flight, you're going to knock all the enemies back. Also, that's only for Take Flight. Yeah, I think they need to put some version of that into Ferocious Sleep. Like this Draconic Fury should probably be in the base morph. Maybe at a lesser amount. And then it increases with Take Flight, but then this gets the damage shield. So you still have the Draconic Fury in both morphs. Because this is kind of weird to be like, Ferocious Sleep sucks. Like no one's gonna take this. It doesn't synergize with the rest of the kit. If you hit 4 people, you should be rewarded for landing on 4 people. Yeah, that's how I feel. Like if you hit 4 enemies at once, this should start at 80%. I agree. I think that's how this should work. Or even for single target, if Take Flight is active, it starts at 80%. That seems like a good way to do this. Otherwise, if you're ramping up 20, 40, 60, 80, it's actually like, it's not super appealing. I think it's fine to have it ramp up if you're only on 1 target, like 20, like say you hit 1 target with the first tick, you start at 20%, but maybe with the second tick, you hit 2 targets. So then it jumps from 20 to 60 and it like skips the 40. You see what I'm saying? Like, I think that's how it should stack, like based on how many targets you hit. But It's hard to know. Thanatos, if you can't say something productive and nice, I'm just gonna ban you out of here. So chill out, brother. For being called a Dragonknight, the class has always been missing the most iconic feeling of being a dragon, unleashing unabated flame upon their foes with a channeled flame breath. We also realize that many of our players have expressed the desire to enjoy the game at a slower pace, and as we've introduced similar attacks into higher levels of play with heavy attack builds in Fate Carver, we want to make sure there are more flavors to this experience, each with their own distinctions in how you build and play. This morph won't bring the same heat as either of those builds alone, but it should help take some pressure off constantly needed to press down the gas pedal buttons. So I think this is good. I think this is good. It's nice to introduce more of this kind of thing into the game for players that enjoy this playstyle. It doesn't seem overpowered how it is now. Seems strong, but like not something you have to use. So far, initial impressions, I really like what they're doing here. But we'll see. We'll have to like actually mess with this and see exactly how it works to form like the final opinion on it. All right, moving on to Dark Talons. No major changes to note outside of patch notes. This one just looks cooler and should look a little less buggy when used against immobilized immune targets. I don't love that they didn't make any changes there. I think Burning Talons is pretty nice. I would love to see something where the Talons doesn't need the immobilize to get the synergy. And then for Choking Talons, Minor Maim is just really boring. Like, so something else here. Maybe this could even be like a different version, like a 10-second dot, but weaker than Talon's 5-second dot. Like this is the stronger damage morph to use, but maybe this is like 10 seconds and has some kind of debuff attached to it, but a much weaker damage ability, something like that. It's kind of weird that they didn't adjust Talons at all. All right, Dragon Blood. This ability in the green Dragon Blood morph now heal based on your max health and increase based on your missing health rather than scaling exclusively off your missing health. This should make them more reliable and comparable to other self heals. They'll still be weaker at higher health though compared to other abilities like it. Yeah, that's good. That's a good change. Just put the old coagulating stuff into the base. Well, that was based on your max mag, but the idea is still the same. Instead of only healing based on your missing health, like you have a base heal that's based on your max health, and then that increases. I think that's the better way to go. Let's see. Blood of the Green Dragon, originally Green Dragon Blood. Like, why did you need to change the name? Green Dragon Blood. No, now it's Blood of the Green Dragon. Like, what? What? I don't know. Some of the name changes just feel like they're just changing it to change it. AI Overlord has spoken. Blood of the Elder Dragon, originally Coagulating Blood. This morph continues to change the heal scaling to offensive stats. Okay. Also now heals allies within 10 meters of you for 2/3 of the original scaling. Those are some big old heals. This was a nice heal, so. And I'm guessing that's up to 6, since that's the normal cap. It also grants minor courage and major fortitude to any healed target instead of just major fortitude to you. Support builds may like this one. I think so. Yeah. So they may. Rename's now at 30% less testosterone. Yeah. Green Dragon's Blood and Elder Dragon's Blood. Yeah, yeah, I agree. Green Dragon Blood, Elder Dragon Blood. Like the naming is not good for skill names, in my opinion. I agree with you guys. Okay. Well, I think this is really good. I think overall the Dragon Blood changes are really nice. I don't like the names, but you know, the changes are good. This is a really good heal. And you get minor courage on it. It doesn't say the duration. What was the major fortitude duration before? 20 seconds. Are they gonna leave the 20-second timer? If so, that's really good. All right, well, it seems strong. All right, Wing Buffet. I'm just gonna call it Wing Buffet. Like they set themselves up for this one. All right, time to feast on the Wing Buffet. Exactly. This ability in the protective plate morph now knock enemies within 6 meters of you back 4 meters after a slight delay. Okay, I mean, I could picture that. Like you whip your wings out and it knocks back enemies that are on you. These abilities continue to reduce your damage taken from ranged and projectile attacks by 50% for 6 seconds after activating. These abilities now grant major protection, or sorry, major expedition. Oh, so this is going to be more like the Warden wings a little bit now. So you get reduced damage taken from ranged and projectile attacks and major expedition. Oh, that's actually a cool combo. So if you're trying to like get around a keep, like or around like a line of sight somewhere in PvP, you get your major expedition to go faster, and people chasing you down are going to deal less damage with their projectiles. That's actually a pretty cool combo on a skill. I think that works. Yeah, I think that works. Fleet Step Wings. What are these names? This morph just has a name change. If they wanted an A in pronunciation, they should have put it there. Yeah. AI names? Yeah, I don't know, man. These are weird names. Fleet Step Wings, Wing Buffet, Protect the Brood. Like what? I'm not a fan of the name changes, I have to say. So it says Protective Plate just has a name change. So grants immunity to snares and immobilizations. That's actually, this is really good. So you get the damage taken reduction from projectiles by 50%. You get the immunity to snares and immobilizations, and you get major expedition now. For PvP, that seems pretty good. Yeah, this is an excellent get to line of sight tool, I feel like. Protect the Brood, originally Dragonfire scale. This morph has been reworked to be a support morph. It no longer deals flame damage back to attackers while active and sacrifices the new area knockback on activation. Oh, okay, so I see. They're just saying that what this does is no longer a thing. Okay. And you don't get the knockback that the base morph and Fleet Step gets. Okay. It's like, get off me. Like you knock them back and then you get out of there. This is actually really cool. I like the aesthetic of this one and all of the, like the way all the different buffs on it work together. I think that's really good. Okay, so this one no longer has a knockback, no longer deals flame damage back to attackers. But this morph now grants group members within 12 meters 25% reduced damage taken from projectiles for 6 seconds, and adds minor protection for 20 seconds to you and group members affected. It continues to grant you major expedition as well. Note that this effect cannot stack with itself or any other version of the range damage. Okay, so you can't get up to like 75% range damage reduction. I think for niche scenarios, this could be nice. 25% reduced damage taken from projectiles. I'm thinking PvE right now. There are probably some encounters where this would be good, right? To take some pressure off. I don't think a ton, but maybe a few. And then minor protection is nice. I mean, there are other ways to give this to the group, but if you were already going to slot this for that part, then it could be decent. Yeah, I don't know. Seems maybe a little too niche, I guess I'll say. Like it seems cool, but I think maybe something that's a little more universal. I mean, the minor protection is universal, but we can already get that. So I don't see people slotting this ability specifically just to provide minor protection, right? I think you're only going to slot it if you are wanting to get this part of it, the projectile reduction. Butterfly Tether of Friendship, originally named Guard. Oh man, y'all, the names are rough. Okay, overall though, I think Wing Buffet is pretty sweet. I think it's pretty good. This seems a little too niche, but Fleet Step seems cool. Like it. Chains of Flame, originally Fiery Grip. This ability is morphs damage now always apply burning for more synergistic gameplay with other parts of the Dragonknight kit. We added a new special sound effect to the act of successfully pulling enemies, helping dial up the satisfaction of controlling your foes. This ability and the Unrelenting Grip Morph now apply Major Cowardice for 10 seconds to the enemy rather than granting you Major Expedition. That makes sense. This seems like a better fit for Major Expedition anyways. Fiery Grip was no longer even being used because you just use the scribing chains to get Major Cowardice. So it's nice that they recognize that okay, Major Cowardice is on scribing chains. So now you get that with these chains. So automatic burning, Major Cowardice. So let's see what the morphs do. Because right now, this is still worse than scribing chains, but it could get better. Increases the duration of Major Cowardice to 15 seconds to match taunt timers. Continues to refund the ability if the target is not pulled. Okay, so longer duration than the scribing Major Cowardice. And cheaper because it can be free. It's pretty good. This is pretty good. I think if you're using this skill line, which I don't know at this point, I like wrapping my head around like the metas and who's going to use what. If as a tank you are using this skill line, I do think now this is probably better than the scribing chains. So that's cool. I mean, it needs like your basic ability that anyone can use on any role. Quit mooning everybody, Abby. That's so rude. You know, your basic scribing ability that anybody can use with any lines should probably not be better than like an ability that's specifically made for that purpose, right? So this seems like a little bit better now. Chains of Devastation. This morph now grants major evasion for 10 seconds after activating to help you shrug off some of the damage you may receive for diving headfirst into combat. Okay, so this morph still pulls... This morph still acts as a gap closer. Instead of pulling them to you, you pull yourself to them with Chains of Devastation. So now you get major evasion for 10 seconds when you activate it. Increase the duration of Major Berserk to 6 seconds, up from 4. And it does auto apply burning every time you cast it. This is interesting now. As like a 6-second, I mean, obviously if you have like an Atro rotation in your group, the Major Berserk is not that enticing. But if you don't have Major Berserk going, like casting this every 6 seconds in a rotation, now that it gives guaranteed burning and an upfront hit, like this might actually be worth it. Yeah, I mean, for PvE, we typically don't use gap closers on bosses as gap closers, like Stampede, for example. You just hit it and you stay in place, right? So this would be kind of a similar scenario to that. So you get Major Evasion, Major Berserk, guaranteed burning, and an upfront hit. I do think it's a little weird that the Major Evasion lasts 10 while the Major Berserk lasts 6. Maybe even meet halfway, like 8 and 8. But yeah, it seems cool. I like what they did overall with chains. This is another good set of changes. Wing buffet, chains are good. This skill line as a whole is looking really good. Dragon Blood changes were good. Dark Talons, I think they could use some changes. Dragon Fire is good. Leap is mostly good. Like, so far, this skill line is... I like what they've done. Yeah. Not bad. I have way less complaints about this skill line than I do Ardent Flame. Yeah, this is good. So Burnished Scales, originally Iron Skin, just a name change. Burnished Scales, like what? I don't know. These name changes just feel awkward to me. And it seems like I'm not alone in this. I feel like you guys in chat are mostly in agreement there, that the name changes are kind of awkward. Damn pizza spammable because my bar swap never happens after I cast the damn thing. Yeah. Feels like they're trolling. Yeah, it does. They do feel a little trolly. Like they're kind of like memes of what the name should be or something. I don't know. But okay, so Iron Skin, this is the same now. So it's still the increased 10% block damage. You know, that's good. That's a good passive. World in Ruin, this passive now increases your damage done with area and over time effects by 3% at rank 1, 7% at rank 2, rather than Flame and Poison by 5%. So again, losing the poison, I don't love. But area and over time damage is increased by 7%. Now, typically when ZOS does stuff like this, it doesn't stack. So you would think if it was an area effect, you get 7% more, and then if it's an overtime effect, you get another 7%. ZOS typically doesn't stack stuff like that. So if it's an area direct damage skill, you'll get 7%. If it's an overtime single target skill, you'll get 7%. And then if it's an area overtime skill, you'll get 7%, like not 14%, like you would expect. That's how they typically do this. But still, I mean, 7% on most damage types, so it's really just single target direct damage abilities that are not boosted by this, which is a lot of damage, a lot of your damage, unfortunately. So yeah, overall, I mean, for AoE damage, this is nice. For single target damage, this is not going to be a very big boost for a passive, because for single target damage, it's only your dots that are increased, which may be like half your damage. So we're looking at like a 3.5% damage increase at best here for single target damage. Well, no, that's not true, because some of your area attacks will also be direct damage on a single target. So okay, this will be a little, this is not bad. This is probably like 5% minimum that you'll get in most scenarios. I think that's all right. So instead of just your flame and poison, it's going to be like probably an average of a 5% damage increase to every, like, overall. That's good. Elder Dragon, this passive now increases your health recovery by up to 350 at rank 1, 700 at rank 2. So no more like per ability slotted. It's just 700 health recovery. I still don't love health recovery, but at least this is just like a chunk of it, and you don't have to worry about anything else. I think that's definitely a better direction for it. This passive now grants you in nearby group members minor brutality for 20 seconds when you activate a Draconic Power ability. Moved from what was originally Mountain's Blessing. Okay, so if you activate any ability in this skill line, you grant minor brutality. I don't mind them moving this buff here, but I gotta say, would this not be the perfect opportunity to clean up this goofy relic of the past with non-hybridization? Like, like why are we still doing only minor brutality? I know it doesn't really matter too much unless you're using potions that are granting you sorcery. Like, that's still the one area where this conflicts. But still, it feels really weird to, like, why are we still only providing half on passives when we've clearly moved to this hybridization system? You know, this passive was in the Earthen Heart line before. So now it is in this, which I think is fine. I don't have a problem necessarily with them moving it from Earthen Heart to Draconic Power, but is this not the perfect time to finally change this to minor brutality and sorcery, or to make minor brutality something different and like take minor sorcery, make minor sorcery increase your weapon and spell damage, or do that with minor brutality. Make minor brutality increase your weapon and spell damage. Make minor sorcery do something else, or make minor sorcery do that. Make minor brutality do something else, right? Or at the least give this minor brutality and sorcery. Give Templars something different, or give Templars minor brutality and sorcery and give DK something different, right? Why do we still have minor brutality on one, minor sorcery on another? Like, that feels so weird in today's game. It feels like we're just, for some reason, holding on to this relic of a game that doesn't exist anymore. So yeah, that would be my big bit of feedback here. Is these reworks? This is our opportunity to clean this stuff up. So why do we still have it? Let's move on from this. Let's make this better. All right, we have Storm Voice. Again, I don't like this name. Battle Roar just sounds way better than Storm Voice. This sounds like a Sork passive. This passive now grants you 16 health, magic, and stamina per ultimate spent. Okay, so what are we at? This is not in this line. Move that from Earthen Heart over here. So When you cast an ultimate, you restore 37 health, magic, and stamina for each point of ultimate. Okay. So now it is 16. So that's less than half. Yeah. Less than half. But you get 6 extra. Boy, the wording of this is really kind of hard to read. Plus 6 per Dragonknight ability slotted. Yeah, including all the rank 1s with this, I think makes this harder to read than it needs to be. They should have just included the rank 2 stuff. Like, who cares about the rank 1 passives anyways? There's just, it's too wordy with all that in here. So essentially, you get 16 health, magic, and stamina per ultimate spent, plus another 6 for each Dragonknight ability slotted. Come sit in my lap. This should make the passive relatively effective for any who obtain it, while being more effective for those who go all in on Dragonknight experience. This will be a buff at 3 or more Dragonknight abilities, while being weaker at less than 3. So let's just take a look at that. We have 16. So with 1 Dragonknight ability slotted, 22. With 2 Dragonknight abilities slotted, we're at 28. With 3 Dragonknight abilities slotted, we are at 34, which is still a nerf, so they straight up lied. They straight up lied. But at 4 Dragonknight abilities slotted, it will be a buff. So it's a nerf at 3 or less. It's a buff at 4 or more. I think it's fine overall. I mean, you're going to have typically probably 2 to 3 Dragonknight abilities slotted, which puts you in the 28 to 34 range, which is, it's still really good. Like, that's fine. You know, 28 to 34 range, 28 times a 250 ult. That's still 7k of each resource. Like, yeah, that's fine. I think it's fine that this was a little bit nerfed. Like, honestly, like most of the time, a lot of the resources you're getting back are like overkill anyways. Like you're going over your max. So it's really not a huge deal to have it like a little bit of a nerf here. I think this is fine. I don't really mind the way they did it. It does feel a little weird to have like this dependent on Dragonknight abilities slotted, but you know, still going to be very strong at even like 2 to 3 Dragonknight abilities slotted. I think it's still a nice passive. All right, that's it for Draconic Power overall. I think Draconic Power looks really good. I think they did a lot of really good things there. I definitely don't feel as much like, oh, they've taken things away from me like I did with Ardent Flame. Ardent Flame felt like a lot of cool stuff was introduced, but a lot of like iconic Dragonknight things were taken away alongside it. Whereas with Draconic Power, it just feels like they just made things better, mostly. All right, we have Magma Armor. Here we go. We increased the base duration to 15 seconds for this ultimate and the Magma Shell Morph up from 10 seconds, but removed the flame damage on both of these versions. This means these effects will no longer scale with the Elfbane item set. So essentially, you get Elfbane built into it now, automatically, the extra 5 seconds. But you can't use Elfbane and get it to 20 seconds. So, I think that's fine. I mean, Magma Shell and Magma Armor were never really used like for the flame damage anyway. It's not like a flame damage ultimate, right? Like it gave you a little bit and it was like an okay little side effect to it, but it's not like taking the flame damage away from Standard of Might, right? They took that away, but that was like a huge chunk of what made that ability good was the flame damage, right? Like you look on a report from a fight, someone using Standard, and the flame damage was absolutely huge on there. So taking that away is like, wow, you are fundamentally removing identity from this skill. Magma armor and magma shell is like, the flame part was just kind of a little side effect that didn't really feel like it was like a big part of the ability. So I think personally for me, this is fine that the flame damage is removed. They increased the time, so it's now 15 seconds without having to slot a set to get the 15 seconds. So I think that's awesome. I think that's just a win overall. We increased the radius of the shield granted to 28 meters for this morph, up from 8. Increase the radius of the shield granted to 28 meters for this morph, up from 8. Okay, that's awesome. So that's like a barrier, like a proper barrier type range. So more allies actually get the shield. Increase the shield size to 133% of the target's max health, up from 100%. Yeah. Pet the kitty. You pet the kitty. This kitty, she doesn't want pets. You guys, if you're here in my streams, you know, this has been a long subathon we've been doing here. She doesn't want pets. All right. What she wants is food. She wants food. See? I know what you want. Come sit in my lap. You can come sit in my lap. All right. Okay, but yeah, I think this is fine. I think this is awesome. The magma shell morph, not only as a tank do you get a big damage reduction to the damage you're taking. Yeah, incoming damage is limited to 3% of your max health. You get a huge damage shield for 133% of your max health, and in a 28-meter radius, everyone gets that damage shield too. It's like you can be selfish with your magma shell and also like provide a barrier for your teammates, right? And like a proper full-on barrier. Like this is awesome. I love this. A really good change. Really well thought out, I think. You know, giving the extra 5 seconds. It doesn't work with Elfbane now, but essentially you get your Elfbane timer on it now for 15 seconds. So that's awesome. I like this a lot. And then corrosive armor. This morph now deals flame damage instead of poison, of course. Something poison damage complaints. Okay, got that out of the way. This means the effect can now scale with Elfbane. Okay, so this one will scale with Elfbane. The base duration's 10 seconds, so with Elfbane you can get it up to 15. We increase the damage per tick by 300%. Okay. What's the tooltip? 347? 347 it was the damage before. So if they're increasing it by 300%, that is times 4. So 1388 for 10 seconds. That's 11 ticks. 15268. That's not quite like what a Destro ult would give, but it's a lot better than it was before. This morph continues to cause you to ignore enemy armor while active, but now affects all damaging attacks instead of just direct damage. Okay, for PvP, that's super good. To account for these massive power buffs, the damage limit has been adjusted to 8% of your max health rather than 3, causing you to take significantly more damage while the ultimate is active. This is good. Okay. This is perfect. And this is such a good way to handle morphs. I really like what they did here. So this is way more defensive. It's a group buff. This one is more offensive. You still get some of that defensive flavor, like limiting damage to 8% of your max health is still nice. Like that's still way more tanky than you would normally be. But you get a nice bit of damage from the ultimate itself, and you ignore enemy armor while it's active. for what, 10 seconds, 15 if you use Elfbane. The only thing I'd say is that I think for PvP, obviously this is going to be really juiced. Like this is super strong in PvP. Like having this like really strong AoE around you while you're ignoring their armor on all attacks, super strong. The problem is for PvE, you don't really get that same benefit, right? Because there are I shouldn't say there are no situations, but there are very few situations where you are going to build around having full pin with this and ignoring pin without it, right? Like you're not going to do that in PvE. There's too much time in fights where you also want to be fully penetrating. So essentially, in any kind of organized group play, this whole armor ignore is just null and void in PvE, right? So for PvP, you get like this like awesome skill because all of the pieces work. For PvE, this one you can essentially kind of cross off because you're already going to build for max pin with whatever content you're doing. So I think maybe if they added in kind of like they did with Leap, because this was perfect with Leap. They put in on Take Flight, increases your damage done by 10% and doubles against monsters. So if they also added in something here with corrosive armor, I don't know if it necessarily should be a to monsters bonus, but something that kind of makes up for that fact that, you know, this part is not useful, right? Because if they did that, this could be a really fun damage ultimate. Right now, it feels a little too weak. Like, what is this tooltip? 268 after the buff. Hey. You can sit in my lap or you can go sit somewhere else. Yep. Them's the rules. You're not going to sit over here and beg for food, though. Yeah, so I think they need to account for that in some way. Some kind of PvE buff. Dot damage doubles against monsters. Something, yeah, like some. Doubles is probably too much, but you know, maybe this is 400% against monsters instead of 300. What would that put it at? 347. 47 times 5 times 11. I mean, that would bring it a lot closer to like what a Destro ult would do, and you'll have your tankiness while it's active. So that would be at least closer. But as it is now, I mean, it is cheaper than a Destro ult. So, you know, at 400% against monsters, I think that would be fun in a pretty decent place for PvE. For PvP, it's already like super good, but yeah, I think it needs something. Yeah, some kind of damage increase for PvE would make this worth running. As it is, I don't really see damage dealers using this. Even solo, like you still want to build for the full pin amounts solo. You don't want to rely on this to be the only time that you have that active. So I would, I would do a little more here. I think Magma Shell change is great. So, and this change honestly is really good too. I think we should just consider the fact that this part is essentially useless in PvE, other than maybe like certain like short fight or a trash pool or something where you could just like completely ignore pin and just build fully into not having pin. I don't know, but even then it's like you're gonna have your major minor breach already, like regardless, like you know what I mean? Like it's just not worth it. It just doesn't, it doesn't have the same effect it does in PvP, not even close. So some kind of consideration to account for that. But otherwise, I think this is really cool. This morph has always struggled to be a decent damage ultimate outside of PvP, despite presenting as an incredibly potent one. Well, at least they're acknowledging it. But yeah, I think they just need to lean into that more, because they straight up acknowledged exactly what I'm saying here. Additionally, a lot of the balance for the ultimate felt counterintuitive to the class design, failing to amplify the core part of their kit, damage over time effects. To compensate for making this more of a damage ultimate, we're dialing back how tanky you become while it's active, and we'll continue to monitor these effects. In general, seeing a Dragonknight activate this should instill immediate fear into their enemy, but not hopelessness. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, that's what ultimates should do, right? Magma Shell will still be 3% of your health, yeah. Magma Shell will be 3% of your incoming health, of your health with the incoming damage. Corrosive will now be 8%. So Corrosive's a little weaker for defensive, stronger for offensive. Yeah. I think that's fair. That's a very fair design and split there. And I like what they're doing. I like what they're going for a lot. I just think this is not enough to make it good in PvE. But it's close. It's close. It just needs a little bit more oomph, and it's there for PvE. So, all right. Superheated Ward, originally Stone Fist. This is a magicka ability that scales, or that grants you or an ally a sizable damage shield, scaling off your max magicka or stamina. Okay. That's cool. We increase the cost to 45.90 at base. Think of this as superheating the air around your target so intensely that it prevents harm from coming through. This should help the support-oriented Dragonites have a more direct option to protect their allies while offering something completely different from the standard burst healing effect. Okay. So strong, high cost, sizable damage shield. I mean, we'll need to see tooltips, but it says you or an ally. I don't know about all that. Yeah, I don't love it when abilities are like that, because a lot of times you could be wanting it for yourself and it goes to somebody else. Yeah, it seems like it's single target. Same issue, Swordbird heal health. Okay, let's read the morphs, because this is the base morph, so it doesn't really matter too much. Volcanic Ward, originally Obsidian Shard. This morph adds a healing effect when the shield ends. To offer some supplementary healing to those you protect, it reduces the next instance of damage taken by 10% from any attack. Note that ends means the following: the shield is replaced, the shield duration runs out, or the shield breaks. Okay, so if you get hit, your shield goes off and breaks, and you take some damage to your health bar too. You get a heal immediately. That's kind of cool. That's kind of a cool way to do that. And it reduces the next instance of damage taken by 10% from any attack. That's not bad. Again, this is just single target though, it seems like. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that part, but I'd almost just rather it be like a personal shield. If it's only going to be a single target one anyway. I'm not sure. I have to think about this one some more. Make sure everyone else is dead before you use it. Yeah, there you go. All right, Magma Fist, originally Stone Giant. This morph continues to be focused on a stamina morph for damage dealers at range with some support functions behind it, but is significantly simpler to use. The morph now deals flame damage instead of physical. I don't love how they're just making everything flame damage. Like, I don't know. I guess it synergizes better with the kit though this way and receives the damage, proper damage increases from the kit this way. I guess it's fine. This morph no longer splits between the two distinct versions or has a cast time. I'm glad the cast time's gone. I did not like that. I liked the two distinct versions though. I liked casting it and getting the balls around me and then firing the balls. I thought that was a cool looking effect. The debuff has been renamed to Heat Shock. Originally stacked. What are these? They just are like, we're changing the names of everything. Why? Anyways, it lasts for 10 seconds, up from 5. I think this was what, 6 seconds after passives before. So they probably got rid of those passives too now, the extend timers, which is good. I'm glad they got rid of that. And those are not interesting passives. Just give me the time on the ability, and have that be that. Like, there's no need for passives to like extend them further, unless it's like a universal passive that was like extends all of your damage over time abilities by 2 seconds, or you know, something like that that's more interesting across the board. But when it's like extends the abilities in this line by a amount of time, like just make the abilities last that long. Like it's not an interesting. Anyways, so this is 10 seconds now, up from 6 seconds because of the passive that you had before. What I was getting at with that. And now causes enemies to take 33 more damage from all sources per stack, down from 65. So probably, they didn't mention it, so I would assume it still stacks the same. It still stacks up to 3 times. You now have a longer window. It no longer stuns enemies on the third cast. I don't know about this because it was already not. This was not a good damage spammable. Like, it was good as a support spammable, but it was not good as like a personal damage spammable. And now they've made it even worse for support without making it better for personal damage, other than it deals flame damage. Yeah, I don't know about this. Like, and if it's a spammable, why do we need a 10-second timer on it? Like, was 6 seconds? 6 seconds was fine. If it's a spammable ability, if you're a tank keeping this up, then it provides like a nice challenge on the 6-second timer to keep that up, and it's like a fun gameplay. 10 seconds is just like, you know, probably a bit too easy. And then for a damage dealer running it, like, you don't need 10 seconds. Like 6 seconds is plenty. So I don't know. I would rather them keep the debuff higher. Keep the debuff higher and keep the time at like 6 seconds. Yeah. This is, I don't love this one. Not a big fan. I don't necessarily mind it being flame damage. It's whatever. Like, I don't love that they're changing all the damage types, but it's fine, I guess. Yeah. So now it's what, 99 more damage from all sources instead of 195. So essentially the stagger the stagger buff has been cut in half, which it wasn't even like that significant of a buff anyways. Like, it was good, but it wasn't that crucial. Like, if groups didn't have it, it wasn't like they couldn't get by. Yeah, I don't know. This feels really strange to me. I would suggest go back to 6 seconds. Since you don't have the extension timers anymore, just make it 6 seconds to match the old timer. Keep it at 65, or maybe even bump that up slightly. Since it doesn't have the weird cast time anymore, it'll be easier for tank to keep it up anyways because of that. Or a damage dealer, like they don't have to deal with this weird like AoE version now, so it's already easier to keep up. So why not just leave it at 6 seconds? I would say even buff how much stagger does by a little bit. Or if you're going to nerf it down this much, just make it do something else altogether. Or leave it at 33. Leave it at 10 seconds, but make it like an actual, like, really nice personal spammable. So whoever's using it, I don't like that one as much actually, but there needs to be somewhere where it feels good, right? Where it is now, it doesn't feel good anywhere. Like if you're using it, you feel like you're in jail. It's not like some interesting thing to keep up anymore. It's just a nice long 10-second timer instead of 6. I don't know. Yeah, I don't like this one. I think they need to go back to the drawing board on this and make this more interesting. Either make it a fun personal spammable to use that has the secondary effect of also giving your group a buff, or lower the timer a bit, make it more interesting to keep up, and increase what you get from it. Because it's already easier without the cast timer or the AoE version. It's already easier to keep up. So I don't think they need to go all in on the easiness and nerf the damage. Like, this is not going to be a skill that people are going to feel good about running. It's going to be kind of blah. What did they say? This should rectify much of the complaints of this morph, which rightfully deemed it clunky and difficult to manage. The duration now follows the Dragonknight's dot timer of 10 seconds, doesn't require different range activations, and scales more effectively with the rest of their kit in general. We expect to hear some back-in-my-day stories from tanks and DPS who lived with the previous version in the years to come. Oh my god. Really? I mean, if they're set on leaving it at 10 seconds, it at least needs to do something more interesting. Like, it's just gonna feel worse overall. All right, Molten Weapons. This ability is morph now cause the caster's light and heavy attacks to deal an additional hit of flame damage up to once every 2 seconds. This is akin to a sticky damage over time effect in terms of number scaling, and should add some more value to this skill for damage dealers. While it may not boast raw numbers over other specialized effects, the group utility is more than enough to make up for that to warrant consideration. Is it though? I don't know if I agree with that. Like, how many people get their buffs themselves now? Like, Igneous Weapons gives major sorcery and brutality for a minute. Like, is that really like super useful now? I mean, in some scenarios, yes, but like most not anymore. I feel like this is a bit outdated. The group utility is more than enough to make up for that to warrant consideration, right? So you have to cast this ability every minute for like I think what they're trying to say is this is not a very good dot. Like, well, it may not boast raw numbers over other specialized effects. What they're saying is it's not going to be a good dot. It's not going to add in much damage. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it should either add in a good amount of damage, or these skills need something extra on them. Yeah, and like Molten Armaments, it's like you get Empower for 30 seconds. Like, Who uses this for their empower buff? Like, for one, 90% of heavy attack builds are using Oaken Soul anyways. For those that aren't, most of them are using a Mage's Guild skill because you get damage out of it while you're also triggering your empower. I mean, I guess this would now move to that where you get damage, but the problem is, unless they've accounted for this, if you're doing a heavy attack build, I hope the heavy attack damage increase that you get from the flame damage is more than the light. Like, I hope the hit values are not the same on the light and the heavies, right? But other than that kind of niche use, like, I don't know. This seems a little weird. Hey, Demon Cat, Daphne. How you doing, Daphne? Thank you for the raid. Appreciate you. Yeah, sorry, I do have my notifications turned off right now while we're going through all this. So I'll go back through later and catch up on all those. But yeah, I appreciate you bringing everybody in. We're going through all the DK changes right now, so I think we're getting pretty close to the end. Thank you very much. Hope you're doing good, Daphne. Hello, hello. Welcome in, everybody. Y'all make sure to give Daphne a follow if you're not already. A shout out. All right, cool. Let us continue on. Thank you again. But yeah, I think this needs a little more oomph, to be honest. I don't think the group utility is anything too special. Now, I mean, you don't even get the minor brutality from casting this anymore either, because they moved that to the other skill line. All right, Obsidian Shield. No large base changes for this one, just some number cleanup to account for the removal of the Eternal Mountain passive being reworked. Igneous Shield will increase the shield size of this caster's version of the shield by 12%, so it's closer to a standard shield ability. That's good. I like that. Fragmented Shield. This morph now scales with the caster's max magic or stamina rather than max health, so it's more effective for support builds. I think this is fine. Yeah, I think this is good. Petrify. This ability and morphs now have a real bona fide counterplay rather than instantly stunning the enemy target and ignoring both block and dodge. Ooh, PvP DKs aren't going to like this. These abilities now reduce the target's movement speed by 50% for 1 second. After 1 second, the target will become stunned for 4 or 8 seconds if they're a monster. 8 seconds stun on monsters. What the hell? This continues to bypass block, but does not bypass dodge. These abilities now apply minor breach to the enemy for 10 seconds. So that's the 3k penetration, roughly. Helping give a potential, albeit rare, PvE use case. No, I don't think anybody's going to use this for a 10-second minor breach. That seems a little silly. It's nice to have for PvP, it sounds like, but for PvE, I'm not seeing that. These abilities can now be cast on CC immune targets, so beware. This ability and the fossilized morph no longer deal damage when the stun ends. We reduce the cost to account for these changes. It's always been a PvP skill. Right, but I think the big part of what we're doing here is trying to move away from that, trying to make the kit better as a whole so that everything is useful in both PvE and PvP. So saying stuff like, this has always been a PvP skill anyway, like, that's the whole point of this, is to get away from stuff like that, I think. So I think it's great that they're making it something that can work in PvE, but this doesn't really make it appealing. So essentially PvP just gets a nerf. So fossilize this morph continues to immobilize after the stun end, but it now applies minor vuln and extends the duration of the minor debuffs to 20 seconds. So minor vuln and minor breach for 20 seconds for fossilize. I don't know. It's going to be harder to use in PvP because before in PvP, like you couldn't cast it unless you could stun that enemy. So now the skill cap on this is a bit higher because you're going to have to know when that stun will actually be able to go off and when it won't, which is okay. You can also, because of the 1 second delay though, if you are skilled in that area, you can cast it. And then, like, for example, you could ult on somebody as they're being stunned. And you're knowing that that's going to go off. So, fossilized though, giving minor vuln and minor breach. I think those are pretty good for PvP probably, but I don't really see this being interesting for PvE. Shattering rocks, this morph keeps the damage and healing on the stun end. Okay, that's good. We increase the amount of damage and healing done by 15% to account for the new delay. Okay, so this will probably be what people use in PvP. Yeah, that makes sense. Although, I don't know, both of these seem decent, but there's no damage on this one anymore to line up with it. I don't see either of these being appealing for PvE though, and so I would like to see some use for this in PvE. I think that would be cool if they could work on that a little bit more. Guess if you use it solo to apply minor breach and vuln, yeah, maybe for solo. Although, I don't know. Yeah, maybe some niche cases, but yeah, and they even pointed that out. Potential, albeit rare, PvE use case. So, not doing damage kind of sucks. Yeah. All right, let's move on. Earth Spike Mantle, originally spiked armor. This ability is morphs now. Increase your damage done by 100, all hits, while active, rather than causing you to deal damage back to melee attackers. This effect should make the ability far more useful to damage dealers instead of being a largely exclusive survival tool. The damage done bonus may seem small, but it adds up over the course of a fight. 100 is pretty small, though. I mean, that was like half of what Stagger added in. Shatter Spike Mantle, originally volatile armor. This morphs. I wonder if this is why they nerfed Stone Fist or Magma Fist, whatever it's called now. Because you have the other 100 here now, but this is just personal, not for the group. I feel like this could be a little higher. This half of what Stagger offered is pretty low. Shatter Spike Mantle, originally volatile armor. This morphs damage over time effect now scales with your offensive stats rather than your armor. Doubling down is a viable damage option for DPS. Okay, so you get a damage over time and you get 100 on all your hits. Okay, I think that's fine. Probably. That's probably fine with those two together. Yeah, that's good. Doubling down is a viable option for DPS while also helping you stay in the fight in the front lines with the extra armor. Additionally, when dealing damage with this effect, you add one additional stack of Avalanche up to once every 10 seconds. This should help slightly expedite the time it takes to reach max stacks. All right, I mean, volatile armor seems like a pretty good damage ability now. This is kind of like Hurricane now, right? You know, not only do you get your armor with it, but you get a good amount of damage at it. I think this is nice. This is a really good change for this. And then I guess hardened armor is just going to be the same, give you a damage shield, which is fine, I guess. Okay, this looks good. Have to look at Avalanche here. Let's go ahead and look at Avalanche since we're talking about this adds a stack to avalanche once every 10 seconds. This passive now causes you to gain a stack of avalanche when you deal damage, increasing your damage done by 1% per stack up to 10 times. So 10% damage done increase with this passive. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds for rank 1 and 5 seconds for rank 2. Every 2 seconds you fail to deal damage, you lose a single stack. So 50 seconds to stack up to 10% damage done is a long time. That's an eternity. But once every 10 seconds you can get an additional stack here. So what does that bring it down to? Like 30 seconds total? 30 seconds to build up to 10% if you're running volatile armor. Still feels like a really long time. To stack up to 10% damage done compared to like a lot of other damage passives. And every 2 seconds you fail to deal damage, you lose a single stack. I can see this one being really frustrating. Like, damage dealers running this passive are going to be very frustrated when their teams are not pulling immediately. Lose the whole passive on Zelvaka will run up the stairs. Yeah, stuff like that. It's going to be really frustrating if you wipe. Like, say you start a fight right after the trash, you'll still have a lot of your passive maybe if you pull immediately for some fights. But if you wipe, then you have to lose it all and start over. And it's just, there's a lot of weirdness with this. I think it's going to cause, yeah, there are lots of fights with immunity phases. I feel like this passive is interesting in theory, like the slow build of more damage, but I don't think the payoff is worth the downsides. Like, only 10% damage done. Like, if it was like 20% damage done, maybe that would be a little too much. But then it would even out with the downsides more, I feel like. Because as it is now, only like longer fights will this passive be even appealing at all. And even then, only certain fights where sorry. There we go. 4 in a row. Damn, that was impressive. Also, maze, you'll lose your stacks. Like, so many fights, you lose your stacks on this. It's just, yeah. Thank you, guys. Gain at a rate of 2%, lose at 1. Yeah, something like that could be good. I think they need to revisit this though. Either stack up faster, lose slower, stack up higher. As it is right here, like, it's okay. Like, it's there will be some fights that this will be a decent passive. However, for many cases, you know, and this is going to be annoying on the trial dummy too, because everyone's going to have it stacked up and you're going to have to stack it up for 50 seconds or 30 seconds or whatever before every, it's just like, I know that's not the main concern for stuff, but it's still going to add this annoying layer here. And I think this will add an annoying layer to a lot of content, actually, not just the trial dummy, but, you know, like I said, if groups are taking too long, DDs are going to get frustrated because they're like watching their stacks fall off. Like, it's interesting in theory, but I think in practice, this passive is going to be annoying to deal with, personally. So I'd like to see either higher damage when stacked up, slower fall off, quicker build up, or just something else altogether. It's just going to create a weird gameplay loop that I don't think will be fun. All right, Blessing at the Peak, Original Mountains Blessing. Again, the name, not a good name change in my opinion. No big changes for this one. The group buff was moved to the Elder Dragon passive, and the ultimate generation remains here. So this is only ulti-gen now? On Mountain's Blessing? Yeah, because they moved the Minor Brutality. So now it's just, if you're in combat, when you cast an Earthen Heart ability in combat, you generate 3 ultimate. Can occur once every 6 seconds. It's kind of boring, to be honest. Like, ulti is okay, like, it's not bad, but for that to be the only thing on the passive is a little bit boring. And then we have Mountain Giant, originally Helping Hands. This passive has been reworked and now causes your fully charged heavy attacks to apply off balance to an enemy. This applies after the damage, so you can't instantly stun the target with this. Additionally, rank 2 of this passive causes your fully charged heavy attacks to generate 1430 stamina. This is considered a proc, so no interplay with other effects on top of whatever restore they'd normally grant. Okay, so you can no longer spam your Igneous Shield and get stamina back while you're blocking. That sucks. That sucks. You can heavy attack and get more stamina back when you heavy. But you got what? 1120 stamina just for casting an ability in this line? Now you get barely more than that for having to do a fully charged heavy attack. I don't know. I don't love that part. The off balance when you do a heavy attack, I think is cool. I think this is a cool addition to the game. The stamina though, I liked that being triggered the other way. I'd say if they want to put stamina on the heavy attacks, that's fine. Maybe just put stamina into Igneous Shield or Obsidian Shield, right? So this ability returns 800 to 1,000 stamina every time it's cast or something like that. So you can still have that way to build stamina while you're blocking, but at the same time, if you wanted to do like what I'll sometimes do is do a heavy attack into Igneous Shield. So I get my resources from heavy attacking while also getting the Igneous Shield. The Helping Hands resources. So like having some stamina when you heavy attack, but also just put stamina into this base ability. So you still have that option for when you're not heavy attacking, you're just blocking. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna sneeze again. Sorry, guys. I'm a little stuffy. I like the heavy attack part with the off balance. I think that's okay. I don't like losing the ability to generate stamina while I'm blocking. I think that needs to be put back into the kit, either in this passive or in Obsidian Shield itself. If they did that, I think I'll be okay with this overall. Should pair nicely with Lava Whip. Yeah, you can like heavy attack. That puts them off balance, then you can Lava Whip and trigger that. Yeah. Phew, as you can see, we weren't kidding when we said we were doing a complete rework of the Dragonknight class. You can test all these changes for yourself when update 49 arrives on the public test server on Monday, January 12th. Eager to hear your feedback and see how the fiery class performs in your hands. Okay. Overall, man, there's a lot to take in. I think it's gonna be a while before we like wrap our heads around the kit as a whole. but could do some summarizing, I guess. Let me just do a summary and then that'll close out the YouTube video. The name changes, I think, obviously that's not the end all be all because it doesn't affect how things feel, but I feel like a lot of the name changes were steps in the wrong direction. You know, some of these names just didn't need to change. Name changes seem kind of goofy. Some of them are okay, but I think more of them than not were downgrades in the name change. I'll just say it again quickly. I think removal of the choice to use poison in your kit, it's going to upset a lot of people. Some people won't care. A lot of people will care. Some kind of system moving forward where you choose your element based on your max resource, or extend scribing to work with class skills as well, other skills, so that you have greater control over the elements that you deal, I think would be a big win going forward. If I want to be a full poison DK, I can change my abilities to poison damage. If I want to be a frost DK, I could change them to frost damage. And scribing allows for that customization. I think that'd be awesome going forward. So seeing the poison get removed definitely stung. Seeing some of the abilities just get removed also stung, like the flame damage off of Dragonknight standard. That was hard to deal with. Seeing that removed. It's just a support skill now, essentially. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm all stuffy here. And seeing eruption be removed. No damage version there. That was rough. I definitely didn't like that. That was one of the worst changes we saw in here, I think, was them doing that. You know, I like the whole idea for Inferno now. Flames of Oblivion. I think it sounds really cool. I hate that we lost Flames of Oblivion to get it. I'd love if that was just like a new additional skill. And then, you know, Core of Flame. This is the deep breath thing. I don't have high hopes for this one. I feel like this is gonna need some work to make it fun to use. But overall, I think people that are really upset with subclassing are a lot of people that are really into like the identity of classes, and I think a lot of this kind of changes the identity of the Dragonknight. In some ways, I think it improves it, but in other ways, it's like it is changing what a Dragonknight is, and people that really were holding on to what a DK used to be before subclassing are now never going to get that back. And I think that will sting for some people. So I'd love if there's a way to, you know, this provides a really fun new way to play the Dragonknight in a lot of ways. And I think so many of these changes were awesome. Like, I want to give them props. Like, there are great changes throughout here, but unfortunately a lot of it is at the expense of the DK that we've grown to love over the last 12 years. Like I said, Venomous Claw came out like 2016, and now they're saying poison doesn't belong in the kit anymore. I said this earlier, but it feels a little bit disrespectful to the original class. Some of these changes, not all of them. And again, I think if a lot of these changes were in addition to what we already have, like third morphs or, you know, additional skills added into the skill lines, awesome. Like, there's some really cool stuff here. I personally don't like how much of what I could do with the DK before was removed in order to put the new stuff in. I feel like they could balance that better to add in the cool new things through morph options without taking away stuff that was there. Like, Eruption did not need to be taken away. Like, you already had a healing morph and you have a damage morph. Why would we take away the damage morph to make two healing morphs? Like, it doesn't make sense. So that's a big core part of like my my initial concern is how much they took away to put the new stuff in. But the new stuff put in is really good, I think, so far from what from my initial impressions of what's here. Especially Draconic Power. I thought Draconic Power was really well done. But I think many of the changes would be great if the old playstyles and themes were also better preserved. So I'm hopeful, though. They've made it a point like, hey, we want to make this game together with the players. This is just their initial iteration of this. And honestly, for an initial iteration, I think this is really good. I wouldn't want to see this go live exactly how it is, though. Like, this going live exactly the way we just saw everything in here, I would not be happy with. In fact, I'd be very upset by. But I think as a framework for where they're trying to move with adjustments based on feedback, I think I could be very happy with the DK going into update 49. Because it's not far off, but the things they removed are very troubling. So, yeah, that's kind of where I sit right now. I'm really glad they got this to us today. Get us a little bit of extra time before the PTS starts to start giving feedback. Awesome. Like this, I love seeing this. This is great, Zoss. Like they are putting their money where their mouth is with this communication stuff here recently. You know, like they're not just saying we want to communicate more. They're actually doing it. Like we are seeing them do it. Now, will they continue to? Time will tell, but they're doing it. And they got us all this stuff early. And, you know, I'm being a little hard on it because, like, I feel like this is the time to give feedback, right? Like, we just got it. It's our first look. We need to give the feedback as early as we can to, you know, to make sure that it's heard and the developers have time to act on it. But, you know, it does need work. It needs work, but it's, you know, I'm being a little hard. It's really cool. Like, there's a lot of really good stuff in here. And I think for the most part, like 85% of this sounds awesome. It sounds like 85% of it sounds awesome. And for Zoss and their combat stuff compared to what we normally see, I'd say that is a way higher number than what we're used to. And so if we can continue to work with them as the PTS goes on, and we can get some of that 15% cleaned up, man, this could be one of the coolest updates they've ever put into the game, right? That's how I personally feel right now. I just, man, I really hope they can budge on a few of these things that they've taken away. Even if like the poison stuff is more of a long-term goal, like having ways to change your elements. Even if that stuff's more like a long-term goal, I'm okay with that, having just the flame for now, but knowing like they're working on ways to bring that back, I'm okay with that. Some of the more short-term stuff, like eruption leaving the kit, like I think we need to do a quick U-turn on that kind of stuff. But yeah, overall, I'm pretty impressed. I think, you know, like I said, I was negative through a lot of it, but that's just because I'm trying to like really push the points that I want to make early with this. But overall, I think there's some really good stuff here, and it's a good framework for them to, man, I mean, if this is what they're going to do with all the classes, like, this is crazy. And if they'll work with us along the PTS, I think this could end up amazing. See it here. This was a really long YouTube video. We're at 3 hours and 10 minutes right now, but thank you all for sticking with me. I'll put some timestamps in here and make sure that's all easy to navigate through, but I'll see y'all in the next one.